Good afternoon, everyone. Today we have Professor S.S. Parker, who is the Vice Chancellor at ITM University, Gwalior. We welcome you, sir, to the session with College Union.
Thank you.
And my first question to you is, you had held key positions at education institutions throughout your professional career. What are the key factors that kept you connected with the education sector?
The first and most important factor is keeping oneself updated. See, education sector is evolving in India, and it is moving now at very fast pace. Initially, when I joined academics, it was generally very stable area, and you needed to update only in your area. But then a lot of changes are taking place now, specifically with the introduction of NEP 2020. You need to be connected with all aspects of development, specifically in terms of the regulatory changes that are taking place. But the most important aspect, when the regulatory changes are not taking place, you need to remain connected with the students, all stakeholders, in fact, the students, their parents, the recruiters, be it industry or government, the other stakeholders like your service providers, the people who are associated with you in short-term capacity, and the in-house facilities or in-house assets that you have, the teachers, the administrative staff, the other resources that the university has. You need to continuously keep looking at each one of them, and whatever requirements actually crop up, or whatever updations are needed, you need to continuously keep updating. That will keep you connected with the system, and it will also keep you connected with students. It will keep you connected with recruiters. It will keep you connected with the stakeholders. The problem that we academicians face is that we get connected with students, but get isolated from the other stakeholders, like, say, recruiters, the parents, the society, wherein the students are going to work after completion of their degree. So these are the areas that we need to remain connected. So that's what I felt, that if you do this, you remain connected with all stakeholders. You need to continuously keep taking inputs from each one of them.
Absolutely correct, sir. So with this, I just move on to the next question. So, being the Vice Chancellor for ITM University, what is your philosophy of leadership, and how would you describe your leadership style?
I believe in participative leadership. That means you need to, everyone can contribute in decision-making process. And unless you follow participative leadership, you would lose out on a large number of ideas that would otherwise come to you when you use participative leadership. I believe in giving proper responsibility and authority at the same time, so that people can be independently taking decisions. Let's say at school level, deans and HODs are free to take decisions about the programs that they would like to add, the programs they would like to discontinue, if they would like to add to the strength that they have, whether they would like to discontinue any program, etc. Any special training needs, if the school has, they can identify the organization that could provide that kind of training, and so on. In fact, they are also involved in identifying. They only identify the faculty requirement, and they are involved in faculty selection. So that means the deans of all the schools actually are the major pillars of management in the university. They uh, actually manage the different schools. And as a leader of the all the schools, I provide them strategic direction. I get them the inputs from industry, what kind of programs are acceptable, what kind of programs actually have low acceptability or will continue to have low acceptability in near future. So that is the area. I also, it is my responsibility to keep them apprised of the decisions taken by different regulatory bodies, so that they know what are the regulatory bodies thinking about, or what decisions have been taken, so that they can be implemented in the university. And I provide them, guidance in terms of how to ensure that the university grows. I provide them the say goals, and I also provide them the direction how we can achieve those goals. So that's my responsibility as head of the university. But I believe even students have to be involved in decision-making process. So what we've done is, even for your curriculum development, syllabus updation, we've identified students and they are part of the teams. We've identified the alumni. They are also part of the updation, syllabus updation, but even current students are part of that. So in majority of the decision-making committees, you find that students are also represented. So everybody's voice can be taken care of while taking decisions. So that's the reason. That's why I call it participative leadership.
Okay, sir. That explains a lot. And let's move on to the next question. So, how does the curriculum of ITM University ensures the best practice of industry?
We update our curriculum every year, and uh, during that updation, we involve the recruiters. Basically, the industry is majorly the recruiter for us. So people from industry, our alumni, our students from various programs, they get involved in deciding what would be the curriculum that the student would study. We also take care of the syllabus that has already been prescribed by some of the regulatory bodies. That means in the wherever the regulatory bodies have prescribed a minimum syllabus, a curriculum, that we follow. In addition to that, wherever even regulatory bodies also have prescribed, like say nursing, Council of Nursing, Pharmacy Council, these councils have prescribed fixed curriculum syllabus, that this is the minimum curriculum syllabus that has to be offered to the students. And we look at the additionals that can be given to the students, additional programs, the additional subjects, if they can be taught to them, additional syllabus in the courses that are being followed by the students. So we not only follow the minimum prescribed syllabus by the regulatory bodies, we also augment it as per the requirements of the industry. So industry people are important in deciding curriculum and syllabus, and we update it every year. We identify the weaknesses or the gaps in our syllabus through feedback from alumni and industry and students. And then every year when we carry out the curriculum and syllabus updation, we keep that gap in mind while developing syllabus and curriculum. So we ensure that the syllabus and curriculum that we develop is as per the industry needs at all times. And we don't wait for 10 years, 5 years, that something has already been implemented in industry, and we implement for teaching that part after 5 years or 10 years. Now that gap is not there in this university.
Nice, sir. Yes, sir. So, my next question is, what do you think should be the university's top priority over next 10 years? How do you see ITM University to grow in next 10 years?
There are, quality indicators for any university or educational institution, and those quality indicators for all stakeholders are accreditations. That means any university needs to have accreditations national level and international level. National level, you need to have accreditations for individual schools also, individual programs, like AICT provides accreditations to individual programs. Then ICAR also provides accreditation to individual programs. There are agencies that provide accreditation to the whole university or an institution, like NAC accreditation at national level. So we need to get the best, accreditations in the country for programs as well as for the whole university. That's one part, to indicate that the university provides quality education, and all the systems that are used by the university are in line with the required best practices, which are monitored by the accrediting agencies. We also need to go in for international accreditations, so that internationally also the university is well recognized. We get students from 18 to 20 countries right now, and accreditations would help us get students from developed countries. Right now, majority of students that come to this university are from developing countries. They are either from our neighboring countries from Asia, Nepal, Myanmar, Bangladesh, etc., or they are from Central Asia and African countries. And some students also come from, say, Afghanistan. They come from Russian bloc as well. But then we want that the students to this university should come from, say, Europe and developed countries of Europe and say North America, etc. That can only happen when we have got international accreditations for the university and for individual programs as well. So we are moving in that direction. I'm pretty sure we are going in for next round of our, we are already NAC accredited, and some of our programs are NBA accredited. We are moving in that direction, going for second round of NAC accreditation within a year. And I'm pretty sure we'll get a good rating there. And after that, we will start planning for international accreditation. So next 10 years, we would like to have international accreditations for our individual schools, say School of Management, Engineering, School of Engineering, and like that. So individual schools as well as for the university.
Right, sir. That is so great. And I just wanted to ask you about when you first came to ITM University. What were your vision for the university, and has it evolved over time, and how far along in implementing that vision are you?
When I joined ITM University, since I was working at Gwalior itself for a long period, so I knew about ITM University quite a lot. And the first thing that actually was in my mind was to develop, though the university had a professional system and it was being managed professionally, there were some areas which actually required system updation. So that was that was on my mind, that the first thing that I will do is develop a proper system in the university in all areas, so that the university can progress systematically. University was doing well. It had good admissions, good faculty, placements are good. So everything was nice. But for a university to remain competitive and remain in lead for long periods of time, you need systems that are aligned to the best in the world, and that is one part. The second part was we had few networking MOUs with international universities, and second, my priority was that we should get networked with a large number of internationally reputed universities, so that our students and faculty members can get connected the best and can learn from those networking arrangements. So we are moving in that direction, and we've already signed MOUs with some of the universities, and we are in process of signing. We going slow because we evaluate the university with which we will be signing MOUs thoroughly before we can actually sign. And we want reciprocal arrangements, and not that which in the developed countries would like to offer their programs here, and we will only be doing marketing for them, that the students would actually study at our university for some time, and then they will go to the university in the developed countries, and they will provide the degree and etc. So we believe that the foreign universities need to treat us as equal partners, and our faculty members will go and teach there. Their faculty members will come and teach here. Our students can go and do their internship, etc., in their universities, and their students can come and do internship through our university or with our university, through our university with the industry, and with our university in the university also they can work. So we're working on that.
That is so great
And
for the university.
as far as complete complete realization of vision is concerned, it cannot be done in a short period of time. I joined the university in Fab, and majority of time has been online. That means teaching has been online. The students have been away from the campus. You can move faster when the students are on the campus. There are a number of things that you can do when the students are on the campus, and it is difficult to do that online. Though we have one of the best system for online teaching. We have our own LMS, we have our own delivery system, we have a strong ERP, but still I find that online cannot be a replacement for the physical learning. And that's what we are waiting for. As soon as the government permits, we'll open the campus for students, and I'm sure we can move faster when we are in offline mode.
Exactly, sir. So what are some of the biggest challenges you see both for the higher education in general and for ITM University specifically?
See, actually, there have been a lot of legacy regulations which have been creating problem for private universities, and those regulations are going to go with the implementation of NEP 2020, and that should help us. That should help private universities to grow significantly and as per their capabilities and desires. So till that happens, there are a lot of cycles, lot of restrictions that are imposed by say various agencies. Like say all these say number of councils have advocated their own curriculum and syllabus, and these agencies update their curriculum and syllabus after a long period of time, and that means for students it's a negative that we are not able to introduce the latest syllabus, are not able to teach latest syllabus to the students. Now, that probably would be that flexibility would come to the universities. Students used to learn in fixed narrow lanes. I know that electronics engineering would learn all the subjects of electronics engineering, and would not get flexibility to learn, say, some subjects of management, some subjects of, say, agriculture, or say some other subjects in science or any other stream that he may be keen to learn. Now that flexibility is being provided by NEP. CBCS has been around in India since about 15 years, 15, 16 years. But CBCS has never been implemented in any of the universities in India in its complete 100% mode. Generally, what we've done is that we've been allowing students to pick up specializations, but then we don't allow complete freedom to the student to pick up subjects from different baskets, specifically from other schools, and lot of credits we have to be flexible so that the students can earn those credits from any of the schools that he wishes to, and develop himself or herself. Now that is coming. We've already started, because NEP 2020 has already started. So we at ITM University has established CBCS system in true sense, that when students will be allowed to not only take additional credits, they can also earn credits in lieu of the credits that they would have earned by learning some of the subjects of their stream. So we've given that flexibility to the students. So it is in true sense a CBCS system. There are lot of other opportunities that are going to be available, and we are working on taking the advantage of that. There will be a lot of research funds that the National Research Agency has been developed, and that National Research Agency is going to disburse a lot of funds for research work. And we at ITM University are geared up that as soon as those funds are available, we will be ready to take advantage of those and carry out research in the areas that we've not ventured into, or we've been hampered in our progress because of the lack of funds. So that probably is going to go. And I'm sure that would take not only ITM University ahead, it will take higher education. All the basic problems of higher education, I personally see that NEP is going to solve majority of them, provided it is implemented in its the right sense, by using which the NEP was developed. So I'm pretty sure that if it is developed, if it is implemented exactly as indicated, I'm sure majority of problems will go.
Nice, sir. So, sir, one more question regarding the relationship. So, how do you tend to establish a healthy relationship and environment in your university?
Well, we are using a very transparent system. The teachers, whatever they are doing, they can put that not only whatever subjects they are teaching, that webinars, etc. Now, right now it is online. So not only that the webinar will get stored on our ERP system, whatever activity they do, our MIS captures that, and at the end of the month, every activity that has been carried out by our faculty members and also staff members gets recorded. So one is we're using a very, very transparent system. So that actually automatically leads to a healthy relationship when there is nothing hidden. We carried out a performance evaluation for last 1 year, and we used a comprehensive system of evaluation. And finally, before implementing, we shared it with faculty members that this is your performance evaluation. If you have any questions on this, you can come and discuss, and we will, if required, we'll make changes. We had a couple of faculty members coming, not more than 3 or 4 out of about 250, and 3 or 4 were there, and we found that yes, 1 or 2 places we had to make corrections, and we did. So that is what makes or keeps relationships in right perspective. We don't feel, or we don't use any bureaucratic systems in this university. Every person from the university can meet me or any other senior functionary in the university, be it registrar sir, or pro vice chancellor, or even the governing body members, pro chancellor, chancellor. Every student, every member, including the students, have opportunity to meet them whenever they want, or contact them online through email, etc. So that gives, since complete transparency is maintained, the healthy relationship is developed between everyone working in this university, including students.
All right. So my last question to you is, so do you have any suggestions or tips for the upcoming students of ITM University?
Well, to be successful in life, you need to really work hard. That's important. The smart work would come, but that would come when you completed your education. During education, you need to work hard, put in extra hours, so that you learned everything that is related to your domain of knowledge, and you not only learned concepts, you also learned how to apply them, how to evaluate different systems, how to see the relationship between different systems in the organizations where you're going to work, and you also have kept your mind open for innovations. That is absolutely important, and therefore I believe that you come to the university with open mind for learning, and work hard for the duration of your program in the university. And in fact, it's not only ITM University, wherever you wish to take admission, you need to really work hard and ensure that you have developed skills, you develop knowledge, and your attitude should always be positive. If you have any traits of negative attitude, please, it's a possibility you can learn how to have a positive attitude, and work on yourself, develop a positive attitude towards everything that you relate yourself to. That will take you long. So positive attitude, good skills, and good skills don't come without working. Skills have to be developed by the students, individual students, in the guidance, under the guidance of teachers. There may be systems in the university that would develop those skills, but unless individual students work on their skills, no other person can develop your skills. So attitude and skills are in your control. So please work on your skills, please work on your attitude while doing your degree program. And I'm pretty sure the universities would work on, along with you, on developing your skills, and also ensure that your knowledge gets developed to the level that is desired for any program that you pursue at the university level. And the university system will take care of that. I'm pretty sure about it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. It was
Thank
a
you,
great
Arun.
session, and it was really enlightening for the students, upcoming student, and entire student fraternity. So we thank you so much from the College Dunia team, and we hope that this collaboration with ITM University goes ahead a long way. And thank you so much, sir, once again for your time.
Welcome, Arun, and thank you for having me there, for talking to the prospective students. Thank you.
So you're welcome, sir. You're welcome.